I'm really good at it. You know, all my training working for Peter Jennings when I was 24, like I knew how to deliver a dossier. And believe me, it wasn't my first to production. It was like my 10th.
Do you think that was like the final nail in the coffin, or you think
I
no,
think
it's
so.
just you were
Yeah,
you
I think I don't know. No, not that. I think at that, you know, because I said I was being gaslit because the incident was like on the show. You'll see it on the reunion. Maybe I think they kept it in because I don't know. At one point, Bethenny was like, "I don't have anything in common with her. She has no job, no career, no husband, no child." And I said this on the show, which did really hurt my. You know, I can't. I'm just not the. I have a lot of pride, you know. So maybe it didn't come across that it really hurt me that she would say something like that, because I definitely considered her up until the point, and I only heard that when I was watching it, so I learned that she said that with the rest of the world, right? And up until that point, up until the point where I was watching the show and seeing how it was unfolding and the stuff that she was saying, I still had great affection for her. So like, I was just like, oh, wow, you know, we had a rough season, but then I saw the show and I was like, whoa, wait. And what happens is the show's airing, but you're still doing those confessional interviews. So you'll like Andy said, well, you said shit about her. And like, yeah, I did. The very last confessional interview I filmed was like 2 weeks before the reunion, but I had seen the whole season of all this terrible shit that she was saying. So I went in. So I was like, oh, okay. You know, now I'm going to say, you know, what I think. But
that makes sense.
yeah. So it, you know, anyway, but I don't know what my point was. My point was I did feel hurt about the things that she was saying, especially like, I have no husband. Okay, well, my husband passed away. We didn't have children, and that didn't, like, it's not like I wouldn't have wanted children with my husband or after with anyone, but just didn't work out for me, right? So in that way, but I brought it up at the reunion, and they just, all of them like came down on me, like, and said, she never said that. She, you know, Andy was like screaming at me, and then he was like, he has an IFB. You know what that is?
Yeah.
Now
like
they call it,
he's listening to like the control room or
it used to be
whoever.
called an IFB, or professionally they're IFBs, but now they're like iPods or whatever, little AirPods. And he's talking to the control room, and not only is he saying she never said that about my husband and a child, but that he's like, the producers are telling me they're looking at the show right now in the control room, and she definitely didn't say that. Well, I know that they're not screening the show in the control room. There is no control room. They're not screening the show while we're filming reunions. I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yes, I've got definitive word. She never said that. And it was just nuts.
You're like, I won Emmys for producing. Like, you forget that
I know there's no control room where they're like screening 15 episodes of a show to find out exactly, you know, it was just nuts. I almost thought I was going to like get up and leave, but you know, I was just going to get up and leave, like do one of those. But then I felt like self-conscious about that. Like I felt like that's so housewifey, Carole, like to get up and be all indignant. But I did feel indignant. I did feel outraged that I was, you know, that they were not only not they were protecting this storyline and again and gaslighting me, but like then I didn't. But now, you know, that is another regret. I should have just stormed off, right, and hailed a cab outside and like
that would have been very housewifey of you.
I know, but I wish I did that. I wish I did that now.
But it sounds like you knew, like you said, at that point, they're protecting Bethenny at all costs.
Like, yeah. And I totally understood the decision. I'm not going to say that. I understood. And you know, it was a very hard season to watch and a very, very difficult reunion to sit through. It was. And I knew after the reunion, I remember calling my accountant and saying like, okay, like if I don't do the show again, that's X amount of dollars I'm not going to get. Like, am I okay for like a year or 2 or 3? You know, I was just, it was that style.
That's what they count on. It's like you're miserable and you're like ready to walk out. And then they're like, well, here's the next check for the next season. And you're like, oh. Okay, maybe I wasn't that miserable. I mean,
I know,
I was, but
no,
that was
you
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Stockholm syndrome, right? You're just like, all right, well, let's see. Like Heather and I are really close now, and we could do something. And then, Ramona was always, I know she's nuts, but she was always about the show, right? So you could always do something with her that she was doing for the show that would work, that would, and then she wasn't afraid to make herself look like crazy.
Yeah, no, Ramona has delivered.
She's the workhorse of that. And certainly this past season, after Heather left, she held that together, that show together, I think, more than any of the others.
You think this past season, Ramona is the one who kind of held it together?
I'm going to preface this by saying I did not watch the whole season, but I could tell just in the 3 episodes that I saw, 3 or 4 episodes that Heather was in, that I could see, anyone who knows how to film reality and I could see what Ramona was doing. And I could see that she was engaging with all the women in the way that she was trying to connect all the fights and make dramas and stuff. And I don't think, as an audience just watching it, they'd understand that she was doing that. And a lot of it did not make her look good. But in that way, she was really carrying that show, at least in the episodes I saw. A lot of the other stuff was just silly theatrics that are good for like an episode or a segment, but it's not like the work of building these narratives that have got to have legs across 10 episodes, not just the 7-minute segment you're in right at that point.
Is that why you think, like, because this is what I go back to, like, the ratings were so low. And part of it was people screamed like it's too political, BLM, it's too serious. But to me, it's like, well, didn't Carole, I mean, like, what's the difference? Like talked about these things and I'm not coming for you. I'm saying, but the ratings were fine when you were there.
The ratings were
you
great.
Talked about an election. Yeah, they were great. Okay. Okay. The ratings were great, Carole. But like, what's the difference with your, I mean, there's been a lot of talk of people saying like, see, Carole knew how to do it. She talked about it, but she talks about lots of fun things too. And I'm not coming for Ebony. I personally love Ebony.
Yeah, no. I thought what she was saying on the show was so important. I just don't think that is not the vehicle for which those discussions should be taken. Like her calling Luann out when Luann said she was an angry Black woman. I mean, you have to literally be living on Mars to not understand that trope of the angry Black woman. I mean, it's not even like you just have to be so in your own head or your own world that this is hundreds of years. This is not just like a post George Floyd world where, oh yeah, and the Black women are real. This is something that Black women have dealt with for a century, if not more and more. So like for Luann to step in it, I was like, that makes sense because that's who she is. But Ebony to call her out on it, I thought was really important, but again, as an audience member, I'm thinking, yeah, you call her out on it and then it turns into something else, like where it's like you try to turn it into something more humorous, but it was hard. I mean, I get it. Ebony is a Black woman. She's faced, like, she can't just be funny about it all the time, right? Because this is every day her existence.
Right.
So when I called Luann out for wearing blackface, I called her out. It was kind of very odd to see her walk in the party. And even though, because again, you have Stockholm syndrome and you're in this bubble of Housewives and I remember thinking, is she wearing blackface? Like what is happening right now? And not saying it at the time because you just feel like, again, you're kind of being gaslit maybe. Wait, what? This is and the big afro and everyone was loving it. And they were like, oh my God, she looks so great. She looks so great. And I remember going over to what they call Video Village. I said, can I see what she looks like on camera?